willful blindness to Trump's triumphs, and how the FBI and DOJ can stop the bleeding. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Think about how reporters would handle things under this hypothetical. Hillary Clinton, not Donald Trump, won the presidency in 2016. Now, I realize that's terrifying to contemplate, but bear with me for just a sec. Now, imagine that Bill is too old to chase interns, so she isn't distracted by any new scandals. And somehow, during her first year in office, Hillary oversees a stock market rocketing up. There's a big drop in unemployment, including among minority workers. And imagine this. Imagine consumer confidence, business investment, even wages in certain sectors, all up. Imagine Hillary announcing that dozens of American-run businesses are bringing jobs back to the United States. They're doling out $1,000, $2,000 bonuses to thousands and thousands of employees. And let's just say that Republican leaders respond to this news by calling that money crumbs, and it's all just a gimmick. Meanwhile, imagine President Clinton renegotiating important trade deals and taking unilateral action to level the playing field for American manufacturers and workers. Now, by the way, I actually remember when both Hillary and Barack Obama were running for president in 2008. And back then, they both sounded a lot more like Trump than Trudeau on NAFTA.
You will notify Mexico and Canada NAFTA is gone in 6 months.
We will opt out of NAFTA unless we renegotiate it.
I think actually Senator Clinton's answer on this one is right. I think we should use the hammer of a potential opt-out.
Does anyone even remember that? I do. Now, imagine Hillary Clinton targeting illegal immigrant criminals, felons, who are endangering their mostly Hispanic neighborhoods. Imagine if, thanks to the military planning under Commander-in-Chief Clinton, we had smashed ISIS and driven them out of Syria. Well, we all know, on the economy especially, what the press and the Democrats would be saying. And it wouldn't sound like this.
The American people are deeply concerned about the decline of the American middle class.
Republicans need to look in the mirror, think about the damage that they are causing to the middle class, our economy.
President Trump consistently points to one highlight: a strong economy. It was a good year, but maybe not as good as President Trump wants you to think.
Oh, Chuck. Amazing. Now, not that liberals care. They not only don't, give Trump credit for his policies or any reworked trade deals or moves on deregulation. Yes, there are actually some Dems even trying to give Obama credit for all of 2017's good economic news.
He thinks sort of history started from the day he became president, when in fact, he inherited good conditions.
I thought Barack Obama did to turn around the economy, to bring it back from the precipice and ask for some tough action.
Mr. Trump inherited an economy that was in full recovery for blacks and whites from President Obama. Now he's taking credit for picking up somebody at the end of a trip that somebody else drove the trip.
Somebody else drove the trip. I don't even know what he's talking about. And to add insult to injury, even while business leaders do credit Trump's tax cut with economic growth and all the deregulation, what's the big business story of today? Well, here it is. A new Reuters poll claiming that just 2% of Americans have gotten a raise, a bonus, or other benefit from Trump's tax cuts. Okay, kids, here's a lesson from Laura. You usually get a benefit from a tax cut when you pay your taxes. Now, everyone is going to benefit except for upper income earners. Hello. And from the Trump tax plan, and they're going to see more money in their pockets come April when most people pay their taxes. Most people don't pay quarterly. And so we're going to see if at that point Reuters runs another poll just to see if people are happier or benefiting. Now, a far more telling survey from the National Association of Business Economics finds that companies say sales and profits rose at the end of last year, and nearly half of the respondents say they're now paying more in wages and in salaries to their employees. This is news that we've been waiting for and that will benefit workers long term. It's about time people had a raise. Now, I promise you, if Hillary Clinton had had this record, the praise would be deafening on the eve of her State of the Union. Meanwhile, the media spent the day blaming the real president for the voluntary resignation of FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe.
The president played this very active public role in pressuring the Justice Department to get rid of McCabe.
So far, the White House is saying the president was not involved in this, was not pushed at all. Jake, it seems hard to believe that.
This is yet another instance of the president bullying and pressuring law enforcement agents who he's concerned about investigating him.
Is anybody safe in the Justice Department?
Oh my God. Is anyone safe from media bias at NBC? That's my question. Here's the only problem with that lovely little scenario they painted. There's no evidence to indicate that Trump is responsible for the McCabe resignation. And do we really want a deputy director of the FBI who's so afraid that he has to resign if he's totally in the right? Of course we don't. White House spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders said this.
Can you say definitively then that the president did not play a role in Andrew McCabe stepping down?
Yes, I didn't say the president wasn't part of this decision-making process.
Now, a more likely theory, I think, is that McCabe himself, along with his previous boss, Jim Comey, are actually to blame for this early retirement. Now, given McCabe's partisan ties via his wife to Hillary's, best friend, Terry McAuliffe, well, he shouldn't have been within 100 yards of either the Hillary email or the Trump-Russia investigations, not with that close tie. Remember, McCabe's wife received a $500,000 donation from Terry McAuliffe's PAC for her failed political campaign. Now, given this, he should have removed himself or recused himself from both probes. And there is a New York Times report tonight suggesting that FBI Director Christopher Wray was concerned about the findings of a forthcoming government investigation into the FBI and into McCabe's conduct. That's the Inspector General's report. And the Times source said that the director and McCabe had a frank conversation about that report, and apparently a demotion was discussed for McCabe. Now, whatever the explanation for McCabe's departure, I say this: it's about time. Now, there's a larger point being lost in the McCabe blame game. The president is actually trying to restore confidence in law enforcement institutions that I think for a long time have been used as political instruments. There are a lot of great rank-and-file people, of course, overwhelming majority. But when the leadership appears to have a political axe to grind, nobody is served by that. So it's time to cleanse the upper tiers of the Justice Department and the FBI of all partisanship. It's critical. Sessions Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein may be the next one on the chopping block. He reportedly reviewed and approved that FISA application to surveil the Trump campaign, and we understand it looks like it was based on that phony Clinton-funded Russian dossier. And, of course, anti-Trump partisans, Jeannie Rhee and Andrew Weissman, should be immediately terminated from the investigation as well, before any more damage is done to the credibility of both the FBI and the Justice Department. And that's the angle.